Okay, you live.
Hey guys! Welcome to our Springfield Leather Live. I've got a super special guest today. Mr. Greg Carmack is in the house up from Texas. And he is with the Orion Calf Company, which is where we have got these amazing new wallet interiors, the Rembrandt style wallet interiors that we released a couple weeks ago, I think it was, right? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So he made a trip up here to show us how to use them. So we're super excited to have you, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So you want to get going?
We'll just get going. So we've got a couple different styles of ways that we're going to show you how you can complete a wallet using one of these interiors.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to start off by just showing that on these interiors inside the money pocket, anywhere you can see.
Sorry, right here.
There we go.
There we go.
See, I'll get used to it. It's leather. So I like that. I think it makes a nicer wallet when you're all done, when everywhere that somebody can see is leather. There is nylon in the pockets, but that's to keep the weight down.
Yep. Yeah. So, and then there's like a little bit of this cardboard stiffener, this paper stiffener at the back, but otherwise the rest of it is all leather.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a really, really nicely done wallet interior. So, and there's, what do we got, like 3 different methods here that we're going to show people how they can finish one out?
That's right. We're going to, we can do an overview. So we're gonna build one out of shark and a bifold interior where we're gonna leave the binding on, and then we're gonna do veg trifold where we're gonna take the binding off, and it's gonna be for lacing.
Okay.
Hopefully we know somebody or can find somebody that can do some lacing.
We have someone else coming?
And then we're going to do another out of snake with a ID pocket bifold that I've already taken the binding off, but what we're going to try to do is we're going to build it, and then we're going to put the binding over both pieces.
Ooh.
And then trim, so it'll be bound all the way.
Fancy.
How exotic.
So you can take the binding off.
You can, and you're supposed to, depending on
What you're doing.
which way you want to go.
Alrighty.
So you don't mind me being here, right? This is okay?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm pretty
not very
sure it's
often
all right.
we get such famous guests, so I wanted to come
know.
back here and see what you were doing and making sure you're being nice.
Oh, me being nice?
No, him.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I'll be nice, I promise. So we clicker cut this one, but I wanted to show people how I cut a piece of skin to fit an interior, and it's really simple. I don't use any measurements really. Well, I'll show you. So I'm just going to square this up. I used a square and I already drew the line. And then I measured the width of this interior to be 3 5/8. I'd be happy with a 3 5/8 wide
Wallet back. Okay.
I got a marking tool somewhere.
So can I ask a question, Greg?
Sure.
Okay, so if your interior is 3 5/8 and your back is 3 5/8, doesn't that just make everything equal across the top?
That's what I want for this one. For this particular construction, that's what we're going to do. That's exactly what we want.
So you want it all even across the top and not the interior being down a little bit so you can get into it.
That's right.
Okay.
I'll show you. You're going to love it. I
No, I'm
promise.
sure I am. That's a weird looking knife.
That is what I use for skiving. I'm a bootmaker by trade. And,
Did you tell them that?
No, I didn't. I forgot to tell them that. No.
Well, for those of you that are out there and don't know it, Greg's been in virtually just dang near every magazine that's had every famous person in it that can make boots, and Greg's made a lot of boots and even won a contest or two.
That's true. I've been at it 40 years, believe it or not.
He was telling us a story at dinner last night how when he was 11, 12 years old, his dad said, well, it's time for you to get to work. And he said, well, Dad, I don't really want to work on your ranch. And his dad said, well, that's okay, but you need to find something. And so Greg found his bootmaker friends and said, can I work for you? And then that was it. That was it.
I worked through
and
grade
there's your
school.
life.
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, that's pretty well it. So
12 years old. He found his dream. Sewing welts.
that's where I started. Yeah, that's not. It's like lacing wallets. It's not the most glamorous job, but it's necessary.
So it's like half of us in the leather world, we just never grew up.
It's pretty well it.
I got it.
So what I did here is I've cut it to the width I want it, and I squared one end.
Okay.
And so then what I do is I just put it up here and put it where I want it, exactly where I want it, and I just fold it around like I want it.
That is way too simple, Greg.
And then I mark it, and I trim that rascal off and call it a day. And for me, it works pretty good.
Well, and what Greg was saying earlier is that every piece of leather that you work with is going to be a little bit of a different thickness, have a different stretch to it. And so if you're working with something that's a unique type of leather, you can always get the best fit by doing that, because every leather, you know, if you're like, oh, I'm just always going to cut it this wide, but your leather is a little bit thicker, it may not go all the way around.
That's right.
It may not accommodate. So this will always get you taken care of.
That's right.
Thickness really affects you when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then these square corners, I'm just going to trim. I'm just going to.
Oh, okay.
Am I in the wrong place?
There you go. That's
you
good.
see?
That's good.
All right. I'm just going to trim around with these scissors to match my wallet back a little bit.
That's called snipping.
I'm going to snip these corners just like that.
Well, I got to say, you're about as good a snipper as I've run into.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Of course, my dog gets snippy. But
On occasion?
That has to do with anything.
Okay. So the way I'm wanting to do this wallet is, like we were talking about, an exact fit. And I don't particularly like how that shark looks against my bound edge.
Okay.
And so I'm going to skive it.
Ooh.
And
I see where you're going now. Boy, that's exciting.
we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
I feel like you're about ready to cut me a steak.
I could. So I like to kind of do a short skive and pretty close to zero.
You know, if you don't mind me saying something here,
Sure.
Greg, I really appreciate that you've got this to skive on.
Yeah?
Because, yeah, a lot of our customers don't realize that skiving requires a really rock solid, flat, hard, smooth surface to skive on. And trying to skive on this ain't as happy.
No, you're right. You're right. It takes a lot of knife control to get it just like you want it. And this is definitely a constant. It's never going to move. It's not going to fluctuate.
Yeah, what kind of an anvil is that?
It's not. It's an old iron.
So, yeah, it's a flat iron.
Oh.
Grandma used to iron clothes with them things.
That's right.
Oh, that's crafty.
So you can get these at antique stores.
Yeah.
And they're usually rusty. You just sand it off, polish it up. And then also it gets you up off the table so that your hand can lay underneath
Right.
the plane. It's
Yeah,
really
nice to know all the little tricks. And it's nice, too, that knife you've got has got a little bit of flex to it.
It does a little bit. It's stiffer than most.
But that's really good. I mean, you need that thinness.
You know, the reason I like a little stiffer knife is for that control thing. Because once I get the
Right.
angle set, then my skive is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're having to deal with a flex and a blade, it can affect. A lot of people do great work with a flexible bladed skiver, but this is
I've
what I
seen some
learned.
guys do wonders with a knife called a hide knife,
Right?
which is a very long, as you know, thin, flexible blade.
Pardon me. Hang on. Whoever got the car out there with the Texas tags on it?
We've got it being towed, don't worry.
Well,
Did you park in your spot?
Yeah.
Then then I'll just have to stay.
Oh, well. Greg,
Yeah, if
how
you
the
want to
heck
come back
are
here,
you?
please do.
I don't know if there's room.
No. You guys got this. I just come here to give this guy a hard time.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Man, you're just taking off just a little bit.
Yeah, and folks, if you're watching out there, you know, in all fairness, this is not as easy as it looks.
Well,
Of course, it has to be kind of easy or Greg couldn't do it.
that's
But
right. Because I'm a simple person, as we all know. here's the keys to skiving is razor sharp tools, you know.
That's it.
He sharpened that thing like 3 or 4 times already this morning.
Well, you just hit it on that steel to stand it back up. And a guy told me, a really good craftsperson told me that if you want to make something nice, sharpen your tools.
That's it.
So
That's fair.
and then the other part is you just have to learn how to hold it at the same angle, and then just drag it along, and it'll do its job. Really, you don't need to worry too much about.
Now you're only taking about 3/16
That's
off,
right.
maybe.
That's right.
Well, you know the rule.
I do not.
They don't let me near sharp tools, so I'm going to leave this with you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the medical bills just got way out of hand.
Stitches after stitches.
Well,
Those two.
Oh, you mean other people? He was injuring other people.
We begin to wound.
actually, Rusty's a pretty good crafter. He's made a pair of shoes or two, and he does all right. He's right about them sharp tools, though.
Well, and that's what Denny preaches just over and over. People are, they get a Osborne tool in or something, and they're like, "Oh, this thing won't cut." And it's like, "Well, have you polished it
Of course
yet?
it's
Like,
not
have you?"
cut.
Yeah.
So we removed most of the thickness. Not quite zero, but on sharp with this grain, I really don't want to go quite to zero because it might chip out in
Yeah.
places.
And that is what happens is it chips out and you get an uneven looking.
Yeah. I put that in the floor at home.
That's what we do.
That's where we put it
We'll
here.
sweep it.
So our next step here is when I glue the back to the interior, I don't like to glue this spot
Okay.
because when it opens, if it's glued, sometimes it looks funny. It'll wrinkle funny. It'll do strange things. So what
It'll
I
definitely look funny. So make that point, because when you're making any wallet, that the back is the same size as your interior, you have to do something to account for that. You
Right.
got to, 'cause otherwise it looks funny.
Yeah. So I just measure. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 7/8.
There's another point too, and you're using that ruler.
Yeah.
I notice you're starting from the number 1, and you
Yes.
don't start at the end of the ruler. And a lot of people make that mistake, especially with a tape measure. You end up with an inaccurate measurement.
That's true. And that's something that I'm so used to doing, I didn't even think to.
Well, there ain't no reason for you to think of it. I mean,
A lot of times in the shop, they might even grind that off. They'll take this to the grinder and grind
Right.
it down to where it's that
Zero.
that tick isn't there, so that they don't have to worry about it.
So then I just draw me a couple of lines to keep myself straight.
Well,
There it
there
is.
it is.
So,
now you got your glue area.
out. I'm ready to cement.
Ooh,
You guys ready?
it's a lot
I think
like
so.
glue.
So this is always the question of the hour: is
Yeah,
what's
you
in
gotta-
that jar?
Uh-huh.
Because we don't
Gotta ask.
actually sell this glue to like online. And anyways, so this is the Van Grip. Greg is actually very familiar with the Van Grip because he is a boot maker, and that's what they use. That's the thing. And that's it's pretty much the same as the Masters and the Barge contact cements. They're very similar. They're all solvent based.
Isn't Van Grip what we use in the shop?
Yes, it's just we buy it in bulk and we pour it
Yeah.
out, and it's easier that way.
So I'll get
Yeah, make sure we can see what you're doing.
So I use.
Oh, maybe up a little bit. There we go.
Are we there?
Yep, you're there.
So I just kind of try to use a steady hand. Get it almost to the edge.
So now, I'm quite sure I would not be remiss in stating that, boy, you need to thin you don't, but your glue needs to be thinned to a proper consistency.
That's true. If
might
it's
get
gummed
lucky.
up, yeah, if it's gummed up, you're going to have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, you might get lucky with a new can or whatever it is that you're taking glue out of for a little while, but it is just very, very shortly that your glue needs to be thinned, and that's just makes all the difference in the world. Tell them how important that is, Greg.
That's very important, Kevin. I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you bringing that up. because it is very important.
Yeah. And this is one of the spots. Are we moving the table?
Either
just a little bit.
Either that, or I'm getting.
I thought I was hallucinating from the glue.
There we go. Greg just wants to work a little bit closer to himself.
Thank you, Liz.
And that's perfect. So we're good now.
Greg obviously is a professional when it comes to using glue, as you can see. So take note. You guys that are out there watching, you don't get to watch somebody with this kind of skill all the time.
Yeah, you just get to watch lousy old me and Denny.
You got to settle for us here. Excess glue is a bad thing. And being careful with glue is just about as important as having a sharp knife.
That's right. Because you can, you can clean it off, but if you don't get it on there to start with, it sure is nice. Where you don't want it. You don't have to worry with a cleanup later.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about the stupid glue taking off part of the finish you don't want on, or leaving a residue that, won't accept spray or anything like that. So that's a glue tip. Make sure you get it where you want it exactly. Just be careful. Take your time. Now, if I remember right, and I'm not sure I do about this, so you correct me if necessary, Van grip, when it's thinned correctly, you've got a little more play time.
Open time, that's true.
Than you do with some of the other contact cements. Not that that's a super necessary thing for 99% of us crafters, but for some areas, every little tip is worth something.
That's right. That's right. I like a little longer open time, because if you don't, if you let it go beyond, it's not going to work the way it's supposed to.
Right.
Sometimes you can apply a little bit of heat and reactivate.
Well, some people call that tack up time too. And so whatever you call it, it's just a nice to know thing. But the one thing about it, you will not get the tack time that you need unless your glue is properly thinned.
That's right.
So Ryan asked, what do you use to thin the glue? Almost every glue has a thinner that has been designed specifically for it. So with the Van grip, we buy Van grip thinner. If you've got barge, buy barge thinner. Same with Masters.
Yeah, and it ain't worthwhile trying to fool around and find something that'll thin your glue because they don't work.
You're right. I do the same thing. I buy the Van grip and go on and never have any problem.
Yeah.
So I also found out that in gluing this back, since the whole front's going to be visible, you don't want any glue on that. And so I kind of figured out you can do this.
That's exactly how I apply glue.
But maybe just a little bit more.
Sorry.
For my wallets too, is because that way you're brushing it off the edge rather than trying to go any other way. It's pretty easy to not get that edge completely covered. But you don't want to fall into that. And look how careful Greg's being with them little bitty glue strings that are flinging and flying around there. He ain't tolerating them. And that's important because, one of them little strings, you don't think about it much, but one of them little strings flies around and gets on the front of your wallet. Well, there you go. It's like the hillbilly said, there you go.
There you go.
Why did the hillbilly say, there you go?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
You have to ask the
There you
hillbilly.
go. See? It's kind of a universal saying out there. It works for a lot of people, a lot of things.
Like, bless your heart.
There you go. You can just cover a lot of ground with that saying right there. I learned that from Greg.
Those are the Texas hillbillies.
No, we don't have hillbillies in Texas.
Oh, that's just a Missouri, Arkansas
What
thing.
do you call them?
Citizens.
Well, I know that ain't true because we've shipped some down there.
Of course you have.
Some citizens.
Yeah. Okay, all the way around.
And now you can carefully go and
Yeah, you can pretty much smush all around that middle and not have to worry about getting too close to that outside edge and getting on your paper and everything. This is another good time, to point out. We get a lot of people in here that ask us questions. What can I do to make my leather work better. And they've shown us a pretty nice little piece, and you can tell they're a beginner, but they're doing okay. You know, one of the most important answers that we ever give them is, you have to learn to be careful. That's just a fact.
You know, that's a really good point. I help a lot of young starting out shoe and boot makers. I offer help. And that's a question I get all the time. What's the fastest way for me to get better? Right? So there's no substitute really for practice and the numbers, but what you can do, and I understand why you'd be tempted, but what you can do is don't buy upholstery leather because it's cheap and then try to build a piece of footwear. Because from the beginning, you're going to be fighting the material that wasn't intended for your purpose. And even though it's cheaper and you don't want to mess up a good piece of shoe leather, it'll keep you from achieving.
You're fighting fights that you shouldn't have to be fighting.
Exactly.
Well, and yeah, that goes back to there's a lot of points you can cover from that, because upholstery leather is upholstery leather.
Right.
Now, you can use it for bags.
Right.
It works fine. And I would assume you could use it for the inside of a lining on a boot. But when it comes to making products out of leather, use the leather that's right for the product. And if you don't know what that is, ask somebody that knows.
Sure.
Kind of goes back to it's not the leather that you buy necessarily, but what's important is who you buy it from. You want somebody with some knowledge.
And then, you know what? The better you get at your craft, then you can start to venture out on some materials, because I'm pretty sure that I could hand you possibly the poorest tan piece of veg around, and you'd still make a nice carving job out of it.
Probably.
And it'd still look pretty good, you know. But a beginner there, man, that's a tough deal.
I cannot tell you how many people come in here on a regular basis and, have you got a little piece of that Herman oak leather around here? I've heard so much about it, just want to try it. I've been using this imported stuff that I get from whoever and wherever. I give them a piece.
Sure.
And inevitably they come back and say the same thing. My gosh, what a difference.
Yeah.
Use good leather.
That. I guess that's the point.
Yeah. And the import leathers are fine. I don't mean to say they're not good. You can create wonderful things from imported leathers, just that for some things, some leathers are better.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not saying that just French calf for footwear is the way to go, box calf, but every country, every tannery, well, not every tannery, but most tanneries will make a shoe leather, and it doesn't have to be a French calf, but it should be a shoe leather if you want to try to make a shoe.
Yeah, there you go.
Or you'll fight a lot of battles. But like on these accessories, man, I hadn't hardly found anything you can't use on a wallet back.
Yeah.
There are some things. That fish would be pretty tough because it's so
We tried to con
thick
Greg
and
into using
flaky.
some Pararoku. He said no.
I thought it would be a bad idea.
That's all right.
I thought it would make me look worse than I am.
Don't worry about that.
Let's see here. Ed asked, is there a limit to the number of times that you can thin your glue?
Well, I don't think so, because the reason a glue thickens is because the solvent evaporates out of it. So really all you're doing is putting back some solvent.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice one thing on your wallet back, and obviously our audience has probably noticed that we're taking enough time to let the stupid glue tack up for real and goodness. Because when you put glue on something, you always end up with a little spot that's got a little more.
Like right there.
Yeah,
next to
the
your
shiny
spine.
spot.
Yep.
And your instinct is to, well, that's okay. And, I suffer from that really bad. But if you
Kevin's an impatient
put
person.
things, I'm not impatient. You put that stuff on there, when that stuff isn't tacked up right, it has a tendency to pull loose. It does. And some areas you don't want that to happen. So
That's right. That could be the difference between success and failure.
yeah, I noticed you sneaking your thumb over that spot that was a little thick over there to spread it out so that it would dry quicker. Oh, well, that's something that
And we have a hairdryer here that Denny usually uses to speed up the process.
That's a trick that a good crafter uses, is just you got to get it got to get tacky
And then I just,
evenly.
check it. If it's
If we're
not
all real quiet, we can hear it.
if it's not wet, if you're not getting any glue on your thumb, then I consider it pretty close to ready.
That looks pretty good.
That
to me.
one, you see that one? So it needs a little bit, but I mean, you could rush that and probably not ruin your project.
It's
But
so little.
we'll wait to make you happy.
Oh, I was happy before.
Oh, really? Well, let's go ahead then. Can we see this on the edge of the table?
Yes.
Not real well.
I mean, you can got the corner right there.
So
Should I move the table
no,
out?
that's okay.
No, it's okay.
I have the rest of the wallet hanging off the table, and I think that's a great way to set the
There it is.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Is that way you're not fighting that stupid curve,
Right.
poking up on the areas you don't want it poking up onto.
And so now's a good time to decide if there's an up or down.
That's probably a good
And
time
I
to do
don't
that.
have one, so I'm not even going to check to see which way my wallet is.
Now, it would be different if you had tooled that wall.
Oh man,
Otherwise, you can end up with an upside
you
down
ever
deer.
done that?
Oh, no.
Of course not.
It's like if you ever tooled a belt upside down.
So I'm just eyeballing, right? Just sighting all the edges are lining up the way I want them to, pulling it where I want it. If it's not, I'm pretty happy with what I got.
And that's nice about having that shark like that, thin enough to where you got a little happy forgiveness there. You can stretch it a tad.
A wee bit, right? So I don't stick the middle yet, and I hang it back off the table.
We're going to do it again.
Yeah, and I do the other side.
Yep. You
Because
take
with all
care-
wallets, the back puckers, it's longer on the outside than it is on the inside. That's how wallets work.
Take care of the ends and the edges that are close. And you work that down towards the middle.
And I just fold it and
Yep, you get it up there to where it's kind of close.
Do a little pinch job.
yep.
And there you are. And that's well done.
And then I just do a little tap around.
Yep. Yeah, and you didn't go smashing on that rounded up place there.
No.
No need.
So for me, this is ready for sewing. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Looks good to me.
All right. So when I make wallets, I don't sew this.
So right up to it.
I do. I sew right to it and then around, and then that's how I do it.
Now, we should make that point because a lot of people, especially newer crafters and ones that haven't had the experience like this, is they're going to try and go right across here. And you can do that, but boy, you need to be careful to make it look good, and especially more so even if you're going to lace it.
Right.
That is a pain in the rear.
Right. So you lace would you lace the 100% of it if you were lacing it?
If I was lacing this particular wallet, I would have to think about that because there's not a whole lot of thickness
I
right
got you.
there. And if somebody wanted it laced, then yes, I would, and I would make it look good. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't lace it, I'd sew it.
Gotcha.
Well, here we go. We got our 26 all set up.
Do we have a marking pen? Silver? You guys use those?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Perfect.
There we go.
So I usually just kind of mark. And this is, if you don't know what it is, silver marking pen, and it'll come off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a temporary mark. So I just usually put where I want to start and where I want to stop.
You know, that may be something that some of our customers are not aware of. These little silver marking pens, everybody should own 2
For sure.
or
Or
3.
6. I think we have a 6-pack.
Yeah,
It's
just
like
have them in your
$2.
drawer, and that way when you pick up the one and it don't work, you got another
That's
one.
right. All right, so I'm going to sew this, and I'm going to tell everybody that this isn't my normal sewing machine, but I'm not afraid to try.
He's done a little bit of testing here, so hopefully everything's going to go well.
I'm sure it will.
Well, it's one of us.
Sounds like my grandmother's clock.
That's a weird clock.
Well, it was. It was one of those great big standy upper things. Had the little swingy back and forth deal in it.
The grandfather clock.
Yeah. It was grandmother's clock. Well, see, that's looking pretty nice, Greg.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least out here on the video, it's looking nice.
Hey, you know what? It looks pretty good in person there, I
And
think.
you were careful going around that corner.
I am. I'm going to do one stitch by hand around.
Well, let me tell you, this is a good lesson for some folks out there that don't have a sewing machine and want one. Had a guy come in the other day saying he's got a sewing machine and he wants to make some wallets now because he got one and he fixed some canvas on his boat with it. And I said, "Is that right?" He said, "Yeah, here's a picture of it." And he showed me a Sailrite sewing machine. And that's fine. It did the canvas on his boat just lovely. But as far as taking that thing and making a really nice wallet, that's a little more of a chore than it is with this Class 26 machine. And so Greg mentioned using the right leathers for the right project, and that's very true. That extends right into sewing machines, but all possible. And make sure your machine is designed to do what you want it to do. Because otherwise, the results can be less than stellar. Was that a good way to put it?
I think so.
And he's just chubbling right along.
He sure is.
You know, I don't have, none of my machines have a servo.
Oh, really?
No. I still have clutch motors on everything I own.
Well, that's because you're old
Yes, that's true.
and you're used to them machines.
But I can get along with a servo motor. I understand the attraction, and I don't mind them at all.
Well, they were, that was one of the biggest things that changed the sewing machine world a few decades back, was that servo motor. Because so many leather crafters wanted a sewing machine, but they didn't want to go like a scared rabbit out of a hole when they were sewing.
I'll say, Greg, you can push harder on that pedal. It'll go faster.
Oh, I know. But you know, I've managed not to run off so far, so I don't see any need to push my luck.
Yeah, being able to sew slowly for a person that's a novice or a beginner or even an intermediately skilled person. It's one thing being skilled in your leather craft. It's another thing being skilled on a sewing machine. Look at that, he went backwards. How happy is that?
That looks pretty good.
I'm pretty happy. I just usually trim these. We don't have a hot iron, so we won't burn them, but you could burn them.
We got some lighters.
Well, if I have anything sticking off, I'll do that.
We do in the shop. We do have like wood burning tools at everybody's desk, and that's what they use to.
Thread burners.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have to say you're getting there. That's looking pretty darn good.
Where is that lighter? I see it. Look at that. How do you get it off?
You just pull. It's a pull cord, so you just pull, and then it's always there, so
how to
you can't
work
lose
that
it,
No, I do now.
and no one can steal it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming along pretty good here. The stitch job's acceptable. Now, the ugly part that I see right now is this binding.
Yeah, let's hold it up a little bit to this so that they can really see what that binding looks
You
like.
see, it's too much. But we leave you too much so that, because we don't know where you're going to sew. You may sew further out. You may get 2 rows, 3 rows. I don't know.
You may want to double stitch it.
So we leave it extra wide.
So you're just going to pull all that excess up to your stitch line.
Right.
Okay.
I'm unsticking it.
And they have used an appropriate kind of cement to where it doesn't just leave a whole bunch of residue there.
That's right. And so now I trim that off. And I like to use, I'll get right on this iron. I like to use a little sharp pointed pair of scissors.
Yeah, what brand were those?
These are Klaus.
Klaus. Okay.
But any pair that's really sharp, that's
Right.
the key. They
He's
got
got those real pointy tips. I think that's also important.
That's right. So you can get way close. Is this showing? Can you guys see? So we can strip that off. And then when you get to the corner,
You kind of got to get snippy.
yeah, you take these little baby snippy steps around.
Now, if you don't have a pointy, sharp pair of scissors, you can do that with an X-Acto knife. But an X-Acto knife does require a lot of care. You have to be careful.
Because you might cut.
And it requires that knife be polished and sharpened just like a razor. And it'll work.
I think Greg also grabbed a beveler, so we're going to see if we can attempt it maybe with a beveler if he's feeling like it.
Well, and again, in all fairness, this is not maybe as easy as it looks, or it won't be as easy as it looks for your first time.
You know, that's kind of true. But if you practice this just a little bit.
What'd you say? Practice?
Just, then it's pretty easy. Because I don't do this a lot, you know. But I usually manage to have a pretty decent success.
Well, yeah, and that's because you've cut and trimmed, and you know the value of your tools being sharp, and all those things go into it. And I'll tell you, for somebody that's never done this, they will learn all those things in a hurry.
Look at that.
That looks great.
See, that's much slicker.
Now let's turn it a little bit like that so they can see those edges. Just hang on to it there.
Now, you see I got a little extra, my shark stretched a little bit. You know, you can trim that up.
Yep, just get snippy.
Now it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Maybe
You could paint that if you wanted to before you put it on there.
Sure you can.
But honestly, because you skived it down so much, it looks pretty darn good all on its own.
Right, and then I usually, even on a chrome wallet back, I take a little Toco Pro
Sure.
and slick that up. And I tell you what, in pretty short order, you got a pretty nice wallet.
Yeah, what was this, like 20 minutes? We got a finished wallet.
Was it?
I don't know.
20, 30 minutes, but even so, it is really, really nice. Can I see it?
When you guys were talking a lot about glue, so.
Yeah, when you see things, the edges are just nice and finished, and looks like that wallet just comes straight out of a professional manufacturing unit, and looks nice inside, classy, good, and boy, that's fine job.
All right, so we have one success.
There's one wallet.
Let's take a look at something else
All
here.
right.
What do you guys want to do? You want to try a veg?
Well, something that's difficult.
Something that's difficult. So I suggest that this is a veg. What is this?
So that is our natural harness double shoulders that we split down to about 2 or so ounces.
So this was a 9 to 10 ounce leather, and it's been split down.
Yeah.
To a weight that makes it easy for me.
Yes. And it looks good. It's pretty leather and just looks nice.
So why don't we make this one?
A trifold is something that a lot of people are going to have trouble with, so I think you doing one would be nice.
Okay, so
yeah.
what if we set it up as if it were going to be laced?
Wonderful.
I knew you'd love that idea. Rusty said Kevin loves to lace wallets. He does it driving down the street, in his sleep, you know, watching TV. He just loves it. But notice,
That's not true.
Oh,
I just don't do that anymore.
I had no idea.
No, I've stopped lacing while I'm driving. I don't do that.
I had no idea Rusty would tell an untruth, though.
Well, he probably hasn't been around me all that much lately, and he doesn't realize that I've changed my ways.
All right. So we're just taking that binding right
Yeah,
off.
you just pull it off there.
Well, that's interesting. Sure looked like you've made a mess there, I'll say that.
Oh? Well, it's not so bad. So, you see that glue residue that is left there?
I do.
See how it just rolls off of there?
Rubs right off.
That's because it's rubber cement. And if you had a little piece of crepe, it'd even be, look at that. It's even
That one's
easier. And so these interiors are assembled. You can see that's just glued. This pocket's just glued. That's because if they sewed it and then
Oh yeah.
Then we'd have a double-
Not be happy.
so we just glue them and it'll hold just fine while you're doing whatever assembly you need to do. I need to take that middle piece of binder off.
That who?
This little middle piece
Oh
on a trifold, there's an extra.
yeah.
Yeah, so when you get it and the binding is kind of all over the inside, like that's the way it's supposed to be, because after you do whatever it is that you're going to do, you're either going to trim it, you're going to pull it off completely because you're going to lace it, or like Greg is going to show us, you're going to take it off and put it back on.
Right.
So it's good to have it oversized so that you can do what you need to do and then have plenty left to work with.
Now that binding looked to me, I haven't looked at it closely, but it looked like goat.
It is.
Okay. So that's it's got good tensile strength.
We did have a little
That's-
question here. What is the
that's got-
preferred leather for a wallet interior?
Oh. There's no preferred one that I really know of. I mean, I like calf, and I really like goat.
We use a lot of Mission Pig.
We use a lot of Mission Pig. Pig is extremely durable.
Right.
Yeah, but as far as preferred, you'll figure that out when you make a wallet. If you use a Mission Pig and if it's exactly the right thickness and everything is correct about it, it's pretty nice the way that stuff works, because you got a little stretch, you got all that toughness in the pig skin. Goat is the same, but if it's not the right thickness, you could get a wrong impression. What's so funny about that?
You get a wrong impression in your pocket when it's too thick.
You could end up saying, well, I don't like to use goat leather because it's too thick. Well, that's an inaccurate statement. Or I don't like to use pigskin because it's too thick. Well, get thinner leather.
So we're just doing the same thing that we did on the last one, and you're measuring where you want to glue.
You're marking those fold areas. You're going to set those apart.
That's right. So we don't get any glue in that.
You're
Except
going
for
to
the
draw
top
a
and the
line,
bottom.
ain't you? I can just tell.
Yeah. Well, I'm slow, so I like to be able to refer to a line when I need to.
Well,
Not slow, just accurate.
I've been trying to talk a lot so we wouldn't have a lot of dead air time.
Appreciate it. All right.
Says he likes money inside his wallets.
Well, that must be nice. I don't know a lot about it. So same story. Same story. Only you don't have
Be
to.
careful about your glue.
Right. You don't have to be quite as careful because
Yeah, because
all that's going to be
it's all gonna
covered
be
up.
covered up. But still.
Yeah. Well, there's no need to make a mess if you don't have to. Right.
Did you hear that?
There's no need to make a mess.
I got to remember that. That sounds like something that could be published. There's no need to make a mess unless you just have to.
If you don't have to.
If you don't have, there's no need to make a mess if you don't have to.
That's right. I wish my dogs would learn that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good goal.
Yeah, because then you just got to clean it up.
My two stupid dogs, I'll tell you, my wife's stupid dogs, they are really good at making a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one loves his toys, and he likes to play with them, and the other one eats them.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
So you either got toys everywhere or you got the innards of the toys everywhere.
Well, it's kind of handy that you don't really have to throw a lot of them away because the one eats them.
Like completely, just like actually consumes it or
Yeah, he
just
just
shreds
sits
it.
there on the floor and just pulls little things apart and eats everything. And I mean, it's
Well, Kevin, I don't think you're supposed to let him eat it.
Well, if they wasn't supposed to eat it, they wouldn't eat it. Because don't they have instincts and things like that? You hear about the 2 skunks?
Dogs are pretty dumb.
You hear about the 2 skunks? Greg, you probably did.
I don't know.
Two baby skunks. Mama had 2 baby skunks, and she named one of them in and the other one out. You didn't hear that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, boy. Well, anyway, Mama skunk was fixing supper, and In went out to play, and Out stayed in, and Mama said, Out, you need to go out and bring in. And so Out went out, and just like 2 seconds later, In comes in, and Out with him. Mama said, Out, how did you get in to come in so quickly?
Okay.
And Out says, Instinct.
Oh, instinct.
Yeah, come on. That's a hard joke to tell.
I could have never told that. You could have written it down for me. I couldn't have read it right.
Well, anyway.
That's a good one.
It is a good one, kind of.
It reminds me of those games that you play when you hear a word, you pass the thing. No.
It reminds me of a Rubik's Cube. I couldn't do those either.
No, I was not good at that.
Man, those people, I've watched somebody do it blindfolded before. They looked at the Rubik's Cube for like 15 seconds, and then they put a blindfold on, and then they solved it.
Those people are not right in the head. You know, there's something
That is
that's different.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah, it is incredible. I'll
that's
give you that.
incredible.
So now you are being careful on this.
Well, you know, it's a habit. You just don't. If you don't put it where you don't want it, you don't have to clean it up later, and it's just you can
Yeah.
be on to your next project.
I got it. Don't make a mess if you don't have to. You know, I don't. This probably is not a good question. I guess in reality, it isn't. But we talked about thinning that glue. How do you determine when you need to thin that stuff?
I can tell when I'm applying it, if it won't go into a smooth coat, if it's gummy, then I know immediately mine's too thick and it needs.
Yeah, I like to think of it as thick water.
And then I don't have a good feel for how much to add either. I just add a little bit, mix it
Shake
up.
it up.
Add a little bit more, I go slow. Maybe it might take me 3 times to get it where I want it, but the other thing is if you use enough of it, you'll never have to thin it.
Just
Yeah.
glue a lot, guys.
That's what you do. You do a lot of work.
That's true. Make lots of boots real fast.
Make lots of boots real fast. If you're having to thin your glue as a boot maker, you're not making enough boots.
Ooh, I have a question. So when you were like making boots, like when you got good in the boot factory that you worked in before you're doing your own thing, how many, like, what was your turnout on boots? Like, could you make a couple pairs a day? Or like, I don't even know what that means.
So I grew up in a daily output shop, and we did 2 or 3 pair a day.
Okay.
So there were several employees to get that done because they were all custom, so crazy tops and whatever. After you know what you're doing, you can make about a pair and a half a week.
Pair and a half.
Yeah, and if it was just, you got to work on boots only, you could do more. But if you're a small business owner, then that means you have to do everything. You answer the phone, you
talk
order
on the phone, you got to run
For
here
sure.
and there.
So about a
You
pair and
make
a
a
half
couple
week.
pairs in 3 weeks, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it varies because you'll find people that'll make, maybe 24 to 30 pair a year. And then you'll find guys or people, not necessarily guys, but people that can make 80 to 100 pairs a year. Well, it's just
the kind of boots you make, and
how many hours you want to put in too. Because
For sure. If you just want to work 40 and have a life, but if you, spend
if you don't
80
mind
hours in the
70,
shop,
80 hours, you can put out some.
you can make some
work.
boots.
well, it looks
right.
like it's tacking up. I can still see a wet spot there. Well, I can see several.
So Steve wants you to talk about your skiving knife a little bit more while this dries.
Okay. So this is it's not a hard knife to come by. This is a Dexter brand.
It's very light.
sole knife. They call it a sole knife, and it's pretty long, and the original end is just round. I ground it to this point, and I ground it to the point so I can get into some very intricate places to skive. But
Yeah, if it wasn't pointy, you couldn't.
Do you ever hold the handle, or you just basically just hold the blade?
No, just hold the blade.
Okay.
You could remove the handle if you want. It's just harder to pick up if it's flat on the table. So
Sure.
I leave it on there. And then if you're trying to skive on a flat, then that handle can get in your way. But if you're on an iron, then it can be below your iron. And
That is genius.
so I have another one.
It's an iron.
Because they made them in different shapes, right?
Yeah.
So I got one that's square in the back. It's a little wider, a little bigger. And I had a friend of mine put a race and a bearing on the bottom. So now it spins. Just bzzz. And what that lets you do...
Oh, yeah, you can hold that knife still and turn your work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on intricate
Like an
things...
engraving chuck.
Kind of, sort of.
Huh.
Really a handy tool if you're skiving a lot of inlay.
Yeah, that's a good trick.
And it's exactly what you said. That's cool. You figured or seen it or knew
I've
already.
used the same principle for some things, Yeah, I get that. Filigree. When you got a pointy X-Acto knife, rather than try and pull the knife and slip, you can hold that, push
your leather.
something, and go around curving.
Exactly. So, but this has been what I skived on almost from the very beginning. This kind of a thing.
Yeah. And just probably $10 at the antique store. You can pick up all sorts of irons and have a little array of everything that you need.
That's
we
right.
always talk about the shoe anvils that you can get, and just for getting into weird spots, setting rivets and doing all sorts of things, like $25 at the antique store, and just find all sorts of feet go on it. I think it still needs a little drying.
Well, I was hoping all that hot air that was coming out would
You're such a
speed it up a little bit.
All right. So Little Fear wants to know, how much leather does it take to make a bifold?
Well,
I mean, so these are pre-made interiors, but if you were to cut a 6-pocket bifold
if you're making just the interior, and again, it depends on the
style.
Yeah, it depends on the style, the number of pockets, and to a large extent, whether or not you got a divider in it. And is the divider going to be leather? Then figure a 1.5 square to 2 feet. If you want to be extra safe, buy 2 feet and call it good.
Yeah. But the wallet back, it's like 1/3 of a foot of leather, probably.
Well, yeah, there's
If you buy a
standard
couple
sizes.
feet, you're going to have, 4x9.
Yeah, I think 4x9 would certainly kill it.
That'd be plenty. The old styles that we used to have forever. Well, we still do. Are 3 3/8 by 9 1/4. But the more modern ones are like that.
That's even when I make exotic wallets, there's always going to be some stuff that goes in the trash. I just consider it part of the cost of making the wallet and go on, rather than try to squeeze every little thing out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to.
Yeah, there's really no point unless. Well, there's an exception to every rule, but for the most part, you're right. All that little stuff is trash.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference between leather and fabric. Leather is a natural product, and you're going to have armpits and brands and scarring and all sorts of things that you're always going to have to work around, no matter what it is. So there's always a waste factor that you have to factor into your project. So anywhere from 25% to 100%, depending on how large, of the thing that you're cutting or whatever it is that you're doing. That's just part of it.
But this is an expensive wallet. That's a nice wallet, and somebody's going to end up paying a lot of money for that somewhere down the road, or they should. And so the little bit you throw away.
You just trim that binding right up. That looks really good.
Pardon?
That binding,
Yeah, it
that
really
edge
does
looks
look
really
nice.
nice.
I guess I don't have it to where it can be seen now, do I? Whoops. Okay. Well, anyway, it's still looking just as good as it did a few minutes ago. So,
Are we tacky yet? Are we getting there? We're going to wave it
you
around.
have been tacky for years, Liz.
I am not tacky.
I don't know. I only got that one spot there that's a little. nothing more fun than working with leather with
Watching paint dry.
fun people.
You know, I could start on this other one if we're needing to.
You know, we might get by with what you got. You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's give it a shot.
I don't know how to turn it off though.
I discovered that.
In footwear, we call this sticking it a little green.
Okay.
A little green.
Sticking it a little green. Now, once again, we are constructing this particular one to lace.
Well, we're not going to lace it today. I can tell
No,
you
but this
that.
is how if you wanted to lace it.
What?
So we do both the sides.
Yeah, you got to be careful with this.
So I just kind of fold it.
If you just go slow and take your time, you'll do just fine. If you go slow and take your time, you'll do just fine. I think that
Maybe you could play that and we could put that on our hold music now.
I don't know if that's a great idea or not.
I can tell you it's not. That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize the value of, and that's a smooth face metal hammer.
That's right. I have them, one that is just for doing what I just did, and it's polished.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's all it does.
yep. And I hope nobody, sometimes people come in and they'll take your tool.
Oh.
Not that one, please. So there's a little extra. I think we just trim that off and use a chisel, put the holes in it, and I think that's ready to lace.
Okay. I
There
think you're absolutely correct. So if this was me, and if I was going, well, it's not me, it's a wallet. But if I was going to lace this today, I would put a small round hole in each corner very carefully. And then you have to be careful because you have to make sure your first chisel doesn't cut the folds of the pocket if you can help it.
I see.
Because as you go down along here, you got two ways you can do this. You can take that multi-pronged chisel and whackety whack whack, and you're going to find that you have cut a little bit on those edges. Or you can be really, 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 really careful and just make sure that you don't cut those stupid things, and that works well also.
You can whackety whack across the top and the bottom.
Yeah, and you do have to be really careful about down here,
You want to show them up there?
because this area is going to be hard to punch your holes in. I don't know, Greg, this one, I don't know if you could lace this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See that? Right there.
Yeah.
Trying to get lace holes along there is going to be really, really challenging.
I see.
You're right up there. But you could still sew it, and you could sew it just like you did that one, and it would be just fine because you'd be sewing right up to that bubble there, and then you'd be sewing, picking it up right here. That way your machine can come in a little bit, whereas lacing probably wouldn't maybe be so good unless you actually started the lacing there. Because you got to be up there a good 1/8 of an inch.
We lace a little bit high.
I think we'd be running a little challenging if we did that. But you could do it. It would work, especially if we would have known that we were going to do that right away, right off the bat to start with. But this side said, yeah. And the difficulty is going to come in because you got to punch your holes from the front through. So, and that would be just hard. It could be done, but you've got to be punching your holes, like you said. You got to have something.
To get it up off the ground.
Right,
Yeah.
not your iron here, of course, but
But you could put a little piece of poundo on it. And
exactly, something, a cutting board or whatever, and then you could do those those holes. And if your chisel was good and sharp, yep, you could do it. You could do it. So it would work. So either way,
Well, when can I expect that to be done?
later.
Later. Well, later sounds good.
Yeah. Actually, the more I think about it, if I just push that, I can lace that.
I knew you could. There was never a doubt that you could lace it. I mean, I was listening to you going, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's going to be able to lace that, no problem.
He's got it. Kevin will make anything work.
You guys are so full of it.
You're not new. I mean, I'm not saying you're old. But you're not new.
But you're not fresh.
You have been around. You've done some leathercraft in your time.
Well, I have, but I am feeling old, just for what it's worth.
Okay, so let's try this one.
Yeah.
We're going to do...
We got a schmancy python skin here.
So we were talking earlier. We were talking about this skin. If you were going to make this, would you make it like this or would you make it like this? Because if you make it like this, it seems like the fold is going to have this kind of strange. And if you make it like this, it seems like the fold would be prettier.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Take your pick.
Okay. I already did.
I saw that line.
I want to cut it across.
We're going to cut it out of the middle, guys.
Yeah.
Right out of the middle.
Right out of the middle.
12-foot snake. We're going to cut a crossways wallet.
That's what I do.
That's all right.
This is going to make my heart hurt.
I'll sell the rest of it. It's fine.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and that's, I'm glad you brought that up because having those scales flip up on a wallet just the wrong way, I mean, it'll work. You can do that. The scales don't really come off. But it's a little awkward. But it's even more awkward on a gator. At least I think it is. Especially when you're working with a gator tail.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
You want to put it back.
Well, I changed it. This is actually the question you asked me.
Okay. So, one of our watchers, Jeff, he was using wood weld, I think.
Yeah.
And he was having some issues with his coverage.
I don't
and
think
so
you want to use wood weld, do you?
I mean, it's a contact, but you might as well just use Formica glue,
Yeah.
They're different. These contacts have neoprene in them, and they stay a little flexible, and those don't.
Yeah.
And so, I never recommend them. I mean, it's easier to get, I suppose. You can go to some home
hardware
store or
yeah.
whatever, but it's really not for leather.
Right. And I feel like people make it work because they can find it locally, but it's not ideal.
Right.
So,
I have one of them at home. I use them. My wife's and I. It scares her to death every time I do that. Aren't you worried you're going to cut your finger? I said, I haven't. In all these
Maybe you shouldn't do
40
it
years we've been married.
so close to her. Don't do it. You
Here,
can
let me show you how to do it. I'll hold your hand.
Becky, just go to the other side of the kitchen while I'm doing it if you're worried about it.
All right. So I think that also we need to kind of note that we'd like to have this in the middle.
Sure.
Oh, really?
And then if you look, this is shorter than that. So maybe we want to take a look-see at that just to make sure it's close. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it'd be nice to be close.
I think we're going to get it.
Now we're going to do the old fold over trick. After
Yeah.
we mark this.
We're going to square this one up. I just go ahead and cut this one.
This is going to look good.
I think so.
Yeah, it is going to look good. No doubt.
And this one, we're going to put the binding back on
That's right.
the
We're
wallet.
going to bind the whole wallet.
Yeah. So he's pre-removed the binding. So we didn't have to do that. You guys watched us do that on the last one. So we've already got this binding removed. And we're going to be rebinding. Greg, do you have any suggestions for someone that's attempting to make a wallet back out of a caiman tail?
Ooh. Caiman has a lot of calcium in it, a lot of bone in it, and That's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if you get one that's nice and supple, like you'll get those. They've tandem where they've removed all of that, and you'll get some supple ones every once in a while, but they tend to be pretty small.
Well, and it really goes back to being careful. Because a caiman tail, like Liz said, it really depends on how it's tanned. And if it's tanned so that it that calcium that Greg talked about has not been mitigated, it's going to be challenging for you. Now you can smash a lacing chisel right through some of that bone, and you can lace it up, and you might be okay. But the bigger that tail gets, the more grief you're going to have to deal with. And it'll also, some of those calcium, I guess, for lack of a better word, deposits, they'll break a sewing machine needle or turn a sewing machine needle just as quick as you can think about it.
Sure will.
And so that would require, there's a good chance it would require hand stitching, or at least punching of some holes and then hand stitching. Caiman tails are really, really nice. They've got this really fantastic, appearance, visual appearance. But if you can't go across the back of the tail, and fold it just like you did on the Python, you got issues that you're going to have to deal with. You know any tricks I don't?
No, not for caiman. As a boot maker, I mean, I kind of stay away from it, to be honest with you, just because of that.
You can use the bellies. The bellies are nice.
They certainly can be, but for a custom boot maker, what you'd really like to do is use alligator.
Yeah. And Nile Croc isn't so bad either.
Nile is nice as well. That's right.
But still, and you're not really using too much of that tail on a pair of boots.
No, that's true.
You're using it for the counters?
Yes.
Heel counters?
One cut.
And that's right across the top of the tail, so
right.
It's folding the right way. So if you want to make a wallet back that's got that nice little double row of pointy scales on it to make a wallet, you just got to resolve yourself. You're going to have to be careful, and you're going to have to make sure you got a way to deal with the need for making holes.
So why does alligator have less calcium?
Less. Much less.
That's interesting. Ooh.
All right. So I'm ready to put this on.
All right.
I'm going to use contact to put the back onto the interior.
Okay. We did bring a different type of glue than I think we've ever used in here before, guys.
We're going to use rubber cement to put the binding on.
Oh.
Because we're going to need to clean that up later.
So some of our customers probably don't know that there's a big difference between rubber cement. Well, there can be a big difference between rubber cement and contact cement. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Bard sell their glue as rubber cement?
They do have one.
They have one.
That's what
I know, but I think they sell their regular glue as rubber cement.
I don't know.
It seems like it's on the can.
I thought it was
says all-purpose.
But
It says all-purpose
Well, you
contact
could be
cement.
right.
Yeah.
At any rate, rubber cement is typically clear. And it's for holding things together in place for a while.
till you get it sewn.
Till you do something to it. But it also, like Greg said, it comes off easily. You can peel it, you can rub it right up or roll
Easy
it
to
off.
clean.
And there's time and place for everything.
Sure.
Greg, have you ever made a pair of snapping turtle boots?
I have not. I've made lots of different kinds of boots, but I have not tried the snapping turtle. Really the only reason is that I really like one-piece vamps,
You can't do that out of snapping
and you
turtle.
can't do it. And so that's probably just it's kind of my preference. I think they probably make beautiful boots, or the
We-
ones I
sure
Rusty
they
bought
would.
some snapping turtle tails here not too long ago. I mean, they're ridiculously expensive, like $100 a tail.
Yeah,
And they're not big, but they are pretty neat.
especially if you like that Klingon look. You know.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking you could use it like as the top of a cape, so you could put the leg
Sure.
pieces over, and then you'd have the tail point that came down, and if you just draped some leather, like sewed it to the bottom, you'd have a really stinking neat, like Game of Thrones cape.
I had not thought of that.
Or I think I made some loincloth jokes too. Because you can't not.
You know, once we even made, you know what a yellow catfish is?
Yeah,
We made boots out of that.
really.
Yeah. We had this guy.
So mud cats, we used to call them.
No.
Flatheads.
Flatheads. The big
Well, we called them mud cats or
Really?
flatheads, yeah.
All right, so this guy that was he was an expert. He liked to set trot lines, and he caught 250s, 250 pounders, and he skinned them perfectly, and we tanned the belly part of that skin
Oh,
and
be
made
darned.
boots.
Huh.
Wow.
So how did they come out?
The we didn't dye it or anything, so we just left it how it tanned,
Yeah.
and the leather worked great. We had no trouble building the boots. They weren't all that pretty,
Yeah.
as you can imagine, but once you told the story, it really didn't matter.
Sure. A lot of my family.
They were just cool.
All my family pretty much was in Iowa. And we lived on the Cedar River up there, and they all were fishermen. And their idea of fishing was to go out and put, 150-pound test line down in the brush piles in the Cedar River, bait it with a big old sunfish or something like that, and they'd come around. You could never just pull up a fish because he's always wrapped around everything in that brush. But a 150-pound test, you can get them up out of there. And they were always bringing home, 50, 75-pound flatheads and eating them.
No,
Actually, it's pretty good.
pretty good.
Flatheads are different than your normal catfish.
That's right. They eat live bait. They don't
eat dead
scavenge
stuff too much.
That's right.
Other
Catfish are just
catfish, they'll
ugly.
eat anything.
Ugly fish. They just scare
Well,
me.
they got a big old mouth on them, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Be afraid they could eat me if I.
We call them shovel noses, but flatheads really what they are.
You just had quite a few names for them. I think you guys just said 4 names for the same fish.
I think it's regional.
Probably. They go noodling for them up there. I think you got to be crazy to do that.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
Sticking your hand in an old hollow log and
I've been.
Oh yeah, I watched people do that on the internet.
I've been and watched, but I've not participated.
They come out with a whole fish on their arm.
especially under a bank. Yeah. I don't want to grab no turtle right by the face. Ugh,
Yeah, it doesn't. It's
has no appeal.
no appeal.
Fish for me. Fish. You catch them.
Guys, do you want to check out Greg's super awesome bag? Because I think you should.
Go for it.
So while our glue dries, this is, you said Katie?
Katie Fiorito. Yep.
With Elemental Leather on Instagram. So Greg made the bag out of his French Vigano calf. I don't know what's in here, but I'm going to rattle it all around.
heard.
And then she painted it.
Oh, that's really good.
This is the lady I was showing you that did the rocks, the leather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all dye. No paint.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Colored.
She painted it, but it's dye.
It's all the Orion, is it right? So this was done with the Orion Calf system. This is gorgeous, gorgeous. The whole got the maple leaves with the wind.
Yeah, and if you buy dye like that, you'll be an instant artist.
I had to show that off because it's a stinking cool bag. Greg
That
always
is-
has the best bags.
I got
really
good
beautiful.
bags.
Are you going to leave that here for us?
I probably won't.
Sample or-
If I leave that here, it will have been a mistake on my part.
And we will ship it to you,
Seem to
Greg.
be very clear about that.
I trust you.
Jeez. Well, this is my cue. I have an appointment I have to be at. So.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna finish this up.
Nice see you. Are you going to be here for a while or are you not?
No, I'm going to be here a little while.
Okay. Well, I'm
Do you want to
sure
do lunch, or is that your appointment?
I would like to. I can rearrange things. You want to go to lunch after this? Okay, let me go see if I can shift my schedule a bit.
Alrighty.
And I shall be back.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks all you out there.
So Tony, I'm assuming that's our Tony?
Yes.
Okay, so our Tony, who is not here but is always just here, would like to know what your favorite pair of boots is that you've ever made.
Yeah, so I got one pair that I built for a contest that that will probably be my favorite pair, just because it was a lot of new stuff that I'd never seen and certainly never done.
Yeah.
And they were a carved top,
Ooh.
floral Sheridan style carved top, and alligator on the bottoms. And I made them in 2 pieces, so which isn't new. A lot of people make a front boot, you know, a front and a back.
Yeah.
It's 2 pieces. Well, this one I made a bottom and a top.
Interesting.
Still 2 pieces, but a little different.
So you had the seam down the back?
1 seam in the back. And then I cut out certain parts of the tooling and put it back in sterling silver.
What?
Flush fit.
Okay, we're gonna find a picture of this and then we'll share it at some point. That sounds amazing.
It won the contest.
I would hope so. Wow. Did you do your silver work or did you have
I did. Because of the rules of the contest. The rules of the contest said no more than 2 people. I don't carve.
Oh, sure.
So my friend Daniel Lutmore carved it, and then it was up to me to do the silver. And I had this class in college. I was looking for an easy elective. They had this artsy craftsy thing, and part of it you got to pour. You know, you got to do some jewelry, and I loved it. And so
you got those tools back out of your bag that you hadn't used.
I got on eBay and spent thousands of dollars. It's exactly what I call my wife.
One pair of boots. But they won.
They won.
Do you get anything? Did you get your money back with your win?
Oh, it had a nice payday. I mean, there was a nice check attached.
Oh, good.
And then they also won a best of show, which ended up being a Clint Orms. I don't know if you know who that is. Fairly famous silversmith in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
Best of show buckle is a trophy buckle.
Nice.
Solid sterling with rose gold.
Yeah. Very cool. It was worth it.
And then the unfortunate thing is the buckle got stolen shortly after I won it, and I never did get to enjoy it.
Oh, that is a shame.
So anybody out there ever sees
It's best of show
a
buckle.
best of show buckle, and you'll know it when you see it because there's not another one like it in the world.
Man.
Let me know because I'd like to get that back somehow. But I suspect it probably got turned into scrap.
Ugh. Oh, that just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was upsetting.
Ryan, no, I don't believe that Katie does any airbrushing. She hand dyes.
Yeah, she doesn't own one.
Yeah, so no, this is all hand. She's just an artist and her median is leather. So, it's amazing. Does Greg have the social medias? Greg, do you have the social medias? Would you like to share any of your socials with our group?
I certainly have, for Orion, Orion Calf on Instagram.
Isn't that all that it is? Just Orion Calf?
Yeah. And then I really don't have one that I keep up with for my own personal stuff. I don't have time. And so I'm lazy, I guess, or however you want to look at it. But
Josh is very excited that we did this video, and he is going to be working with some American alligator to make some wallets, and he's like, should I not glue the center where the bend is like y'all are doing?
absolutely don't glue it.
So the top and the bottom, he's still putting glue on the top of the bottom so that everything is held together. But yeah, that center section where that wallet folds, don't glue it.
Don't glue it. And then if you don't glue it, then it gets to look like that. If you do glue it, it's liable to have little weird...
Right. Yeah. So just the top and the bottom.
All right, so here we go.
Here we go.
I got Python here. I'm going to trim up because I didn't round those corners, right?
Right.
So I'm just going to trim up what's extra. Because we're going to bind this whole thing. Or at least attempt it.
I have faith in you.
I've done it before.
I guess
Okay.
they wanted to see boot content. You want to show them some pictures or something? You showed some pictures of your boots earlier. You can show them.
Why don't we we'll finish this wallet up and then we can show some stuff. Unless we get too hungry, guys.
Are we going over? Is this an extra long session? Are we okay?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
You're good. We're enjoying it. So.
No, I'm good.
All right, so this is rubber cement. And we'll just do a little experiment to make sure we know what we're talking about, right? So we're just going to stick some on this snake and let it dry a little bit, and we're going to make sure it comes off, right? So you see it just balls right off of there. So that's exactly what we want to deal with later. So I just go.
Yeah, no, you're right. That does smell
Funky.
it's a lot stronger than that. Just smells like straight acetone.
I don't know what's in it. They removed the toluene, but I don't know what's in it. I don't use this brand because I can't. The smell bothers me at home. But I think it's mostly it's like a perfumey smell. And so I'm not even being that careful with this rubber cement because it cleans up so easy. You can see I'm just kind of...
Yeah, you're putting a good half inch on there.
Yeah, I'm gobbing it on there.
You could put it on a little bit that way, though.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. You're good. All right. We gotta watch out for the top of that.
Yeah. Same here.
Greg, do you have a preferred glue pot at home that you like?
I do. I use the old Atco pot. Do you guys sell an Atco pot? It's Teflon covered, looking kind of dry.
No, we sell those jars, and then we have the TS Boy from.
Oh, those are very good.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I have Atco because that's what I started with. It's actually the same pots that I started with, so they don't really wear out much. But if I ever have to get another, I'll get that plastic one that you set on its side when you're not. I think that's a great design.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, somebody did ask about water-based, like using the Renia water-based contact cements. Did we talk about that? With like thinning a water-based glue, do you use a lot of water-based adhesives?
I am testing some just for my own knowledge, and the ones that I have tested, I was super pleased with how they worked.
Yeah.
I mean,
we really like the Renia, the Aquilum 315. That is just like for a contact cement. It works really well. It hardly has any smell, which is nice for a lot of people that don't have ventilation. But it even it sticks really well to even non-porous surfaces, unlike, your regular stuff that just is going to roll off that.
Right.
Like we glued the cabs down to do some wristbands, and it held the cab straight to a finished piece of leather.
Wow.
Which was pretty impressive.
I also have tested water-based rubber cement. Mm-hmm. It was great.
Huh.
It worked fine. And it worked the same. It rolled off just like... everything was the same, just no solvent.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with them at all. I think that they've done a very good job of trying to get rid of the stuff that you shouldn't be breathing.
Right. Oh, okay. Good.
All right. We'll see how this goes. I haven't built one like this in some time. But I figured, that the best time to try something you hadn't done in years is
live.
Live.
With a whole audience. Yeah.
Because what could go wrong? Look, if it all goes bad, we got 2 good ones.
That's right. We've got one bound. We've got one ready for... Well, in this one even, you could bind that one up if Kevin was really all that weary about lacing it, and you just put the binding back on and sew it down.
I think he ought to just lace the thing.
I think he should.
It'll be fine.
So with the rubber cement, do you have to let that tack up as well?
Yep. Same story. Same story.
Oh, he's back.
Because the bond for rubber cement is less than contact, so you really got to get it right. You know, it's a temporary hold,
Right.
but you can't really rush it at all. It won't do anything if you rush it. It'll just pretend like you're not even there.
I see that.
That was successful.
It rearranging your
Yes.
arrangements. Well, we have rubber
Look like
cemented.
Looks like you kind of halfway got a wallet.
We're working that way. If I can get this binding on there.
Did you put glue on the?
Yes, sir.
And you can't even see it.
I wasn't even careful. I just got
You
it on
slopped
there.
it on there,
Slopped
huh?
it on there. I tested it first to make sure it'd come off.
That's my kind of leather work.
Slopping it on there.
Slopping it on there. I like that.
That's why he really likes that easy glow and the goof proof.
Yeah, I do.
Because
like
he
those
just
products.
slops it on there, wipes it off.
I know a lot of people that use that goof proof. They are fans of goof proof.
When I did leather demonstrations, I would always tell kids, I said, this is goof proof. The only thing you got to be careful of, I'd pour a big old blob of it right in the middle of this veg tan leather that I just tooled. I'd say, you know, the only thing you got to be careful of is just leaving it sit too long. You just can't stand around and talk while you're leaving that. You got to, you know, you have to be careful. You got to look at the clock. You got to pay attention. Blah 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 blah. And I was just kidding. You know, you can mush it all around.
Kevin, I heard a story that you used to go around to all the local schools and teach the children there how to do leather crafting. Is that true?
I have been to every school in southwest Missouri and some of southeast and almost up to St. Louis. Been up as far as Salem and then down into northern Arkansas.
Teach the kids.
Yeah, I've just been into every school.
Cool.
Man, there were some days I'd go in September when leathercraft was going. I'd do 6 classes a day.
Whew.
Oh, it was an experience.
Jeff, this binding is very thin. What do you think? It's like 1 ounce, probably.
They have split that down right fair.
Yeah, it's pretty thin. I'd have to gauge it, but
I'll bet it's 1 or less.
I do have a gauge. It's right next to you.
so if you see what I'm doing, am I in the right spot?
Here, hang
You're
on.
okay.
I am just stretching and sticking it to the spine. You want to
The
get it?
edge.
It is a whole ounce.
Whole
Hang
ounce.
on. I think you're hitting some extra stuff.
All right.
It's less than an ounce, but not much.
Good splitter. Good splitter.
No kidding.
You're just trying to center it as best you can.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And pulling it tight around those corners will help work those.
Yeah, it's kind of like bookbinding. And pulling it really doesn't have to be centered terribly exactly because you're going to trim it off anyway.
That's right.
But everything is easier when you do kind of center it.
Well, that way you get equal chance to actually hit it when you sew it. Because if you happen to miss that,
That's bad. You can't really, well, you got to redo it.
Yeah, Clayton's thing is he always tries to maybe err on the inside to give you a little bit more on the inside than on the outside.
yeah.
Because that's the part that you can't see. You're more likely to miss it.
All right, so here's something I wanted to point out. Well, now I don't have one that's not cut up, do I? So, on this interior, pretend like this wasn't a wallet, it was just the interior. The binder actually stops right there. So we have this piece with no binder. So I want to put a binder on that piece. Well, look how much extra I got.
Here it is.
I just pulled it.
You pulled it and stretched that goat, so now you can cut that off and use it. Or do you even have to cut it off?
Well, no, I'm going to see how far, see how close we are here. That's probably a little more overlap than I'd want on it, so I'm going to cut off, say, 1/2 inch. Get where you can see. And that's thin enough. I don't believe I need to skive it.
I'm not sure you could skive that.
Not a lot to take off. Oh, challenge accepted.
Can you skive less than an ounce down to a half an ounce?
Well, I could probably skive the edge for you. To nothing.
Well, yeah, I guess you could go down to nothing. That's pretty amazing, I'll say.
So now I'm just pulling tight and sticking to that. And then when you get to these corners,
Yeah, that's the trick.
you see how I'm just with each thumb, right? And you're going to have wrinkles, but they're going to be trimmed off. So there's no way to put this on there without having some wrinkles in your binder. But don't fret too much because you're going to sew close to the edge and that'll all be gone. We're going to scissor it off and you'll never know it was an issue.
So is this one of those items where, one of those things where your second attempt is going to be a lot better than your first?
Well, I think that's
Most
true.
things.
But the thing is it looks way harder than it is.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I wanted to make a bound wallet many, many years ago, and I was fretting the whole time and spent way too much time on a kangaroo binder, getting that just right, and then it fell together, and I'm like, I believe I over-fretted on that one.
It is always nice when your project is smoother than you were expecting it to
Right.
be. That's nice.
Well, that's looking pretty good, I gotta say.
It's going along.
Yeah, that snakeskin that's gonna be nice.
Well, it'll look a lot better once you got it all trimmed up.
Yes.
Paula, we do not have a bookbinding video. We don't do that.
No, boy,
That's like making boots.
getting bookbinding leather is hard enough. Fortunately, we have a splitter that can take our 2-ounce pigskin down to 1 or 1 1/4. That's what we do. Even that's a challenge. Greg, on that that binding that you're working on right there,
Yes.
when they make that, are they cutting that from a hide that's been split down, or are they cutting the pieces
They are.
and splitting them
They're cutting the pieces and then splitting them.
splitting them?
So I just had to put a little cement on where I'm going to splice this binder. It just needs to dry a little bit. But in the meantime, is that?
Yeah, you could.
See, you can take your hammer and notice that
Yeah, you kind of side swipe
I'm
it in
sweeping
there.
it in there a little bit.
And you can see how much easier life is with that nice smooth-faced hammer. I think Osborne makes that shoe hammer that we sell. I think that's a pretty good one for that.
And then you can even take them from what they are when you get them and polish them to a
Yeah.
mirror. And so then I use them also for like, I've got tops go into linings, quarters.
Oh, you just roll it on there?
Yeah, and then I use that smooth face to, and it
So
won't.
instead of doing like a roller, you just use your hammer.
Yeah, and if it's slick, you won't mar your.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
You wouldn't want to do that on veg, though.
No,
Even if it's smooth.
it'll
Well,
iron
it'll put a
black it.
bruise mark on it, you know.
Okay, all you gotta do is sew that up.
Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just here to talk, Greg.
Now, this one's going to be a little different. I'm going to try to sew this binder on the bottom, which we haven't done yet.
Oh, you're going to go around that?
I'm going to try because I want the binding to be all the
Secured.
way around.
Okay, well, if any machine would do it, that would.
Well, we'll see, right?
Yep.
What could go
Well,
wrong?
and again,
What could go wrong?
I guess we're gonna find out.
Well, I think one thing that would go wrong is you'd be trying to do that on a flatbed machine. People don't realize that.
That would make it a lot more difficult for sure.
Oh, it would make it extremely difficult. Matter of fact, I'm not sure you'd have a great deal of success.
All right, here we go.
That's like trying to sew a holster on a flatbed machine. It's just not happening. You got to have that arm out there so something can hang off the edge.
Little fear, the binding comes on the, if you're looking at these specific wallets, the binding is already attached to it. So you don't have to cut your own, but basically if you have a fabric tape measure, then you would just go around the edge of your wallet and then add a little bit, and then you can trim after you get it all put on there so that it's the correct length.
And by the time you take that binder off the wallet, you will have stretched it somewhat. And by the time you put it back on the wallet, you will have stretched it even more. So you're going to end up with plenty of material.
Yeah. Sure, Ryan. We'll sell it.
Man, he's just sewing like lightning with that thing.
I'm starting to like it.
It is for sale, Greg.
No, it's not.
Sorry about that.
That's-
Well, never mind.
I can put you on the list.
Yeah, I saw a whole bunch of class 20s over in the warehouse being worked on and set up. But
We got 20s and 26s came in last week, so we're getting semi caught up on that list. We have some NP4s that finally shipped, but not quite enough for everybody. But we did. We'll get some orders taken care of from December, in January.
this whole supply chain thing has been a mess.
For everybody, for sure.
And now with China shutting down, was it Shanghai they're shutting down again?
Shenzhen, wasn't it? It was
Yeah, I think you're right. It was Shenzhen.
definitely a hardware. You know, I think they make a lot of hardware there. I don't look for it to be a real good thing for us, but
Greg, what did you set up your
How close are you to the edge
Yeah.
with that stitch?
about
Yeah.
an eighth, I think. We can
Eighth of an
measure it.
inch?
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even change it from what the edge guide was set up with.
Probably about an eighth. That's usually what we're at.
But you could make it however wide you wanted your binding.
Yeah, an eighth. It seems like most things of that nature, like an eighth of an inch is just pretty good. 3/16 is not too bad.
So another thing I would have done is I would have probably self-colored my thread here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But we, you know,
it was black, so what the heck?
It's
Or brown or whatever
it's
it is.
brown. But it's not bad. The sew job's not terrible, so we'll just call it good enough.
Could have switched it out to our nice natural thread. That's
We
fine.
did manage to get around that tough spot.
Did you?
Yeah, without too much troubles.
Yeah.
So now we just need to clean this binder up.
Now we're just gonna trim it. So you just peel it back,
Peel it back.
just real tight up against that stitch.
That's right. Get it as far as it'll go.
Funny, it sure doesn't look much while that binding is all overlapped there, but when you get it pulled back and trimmed up, man, it just looks wonderful.
So let's just, for grins, try this.
Oh my.
Well, what could go wrong? So I just started a little spot there with those scissors, and let's see. I mean, if it doesn't go well, I'll go to something else. But so far, so good.
So we're just using, I think that's our number 4. Yep, that's our number 4 of our edge bevelers.
And you could use a smaller one, but I found this one to be the sharpest.
And that's the important part.
And I gotta tell you,
That's all right.
seems to be working pretty good.
I was worried a little bit about those wrinkled areas.
For trimming it,
Is it, no, for using that tool, is it getting over it okay?
it seems to be. I'll let you judge, but I didn't throw it down.
Well, no, you didn't. That
Did you
seems
grow
to
up in
be.
Texas?
Say again?
Did you grow up in Texas?
Moved there when I was 6.
That's when they kicked him out of. Where was it you used to live?
I hate to say, Oklahoma. Because I figure you're going to have something to say about
No,
that.
no, 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 not me.
Hey, my whole family's from Oklahoma.
I like Oklahoma. I got friends in Oklahoma. I know a really good bootmaker in Oklahoma. There's actually several, but Lisa Sorrell's a friend of mine. Y'all ever heard of her?
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty good, I
Right.
guess, you know.
We refer a number of people to her for, boot parts and what have you.
Sure.
Equipment, rather.
Yeah, her and Rusty are pretty tight.
Well, that's just running along there slicker than all get out.
It seems to be working. I was concerned I was going to make a mess of this, but I think it's okay. And you can see I'm pulling the binding as I go.
Yeah, yeah.
Just kind of pulling it into that.
Look at that.
Yeah, that just
Boom.
worked pretty good.
Well, let's see if we can tear this side up. You want to do this one?
No, I'll let you.
Okay. Just making sure that everybody got to participate as much as they wanted to.
This is your
I've
2
never
hours.
tried to do that with an edger before. That looked like it worked.
Well, I actually have one for boot work, and you'll tell me what it's called. The non-official name was the finger filator, and it was an edger that the 2 points were very sharp, and it came to a sharp V, but the 2 out point.
Yeah,
sharp.
I know which one you mean, but I don't. Doesn't Osborne make that?
Yeah, I think so.
Layer.
It's just like a common.
Because you just
edger.
cut your finger every time
Well,
you used it.
if you slip with it and it gets in you, it'll go for a ways.
Yeah, it's really pointy.
So what I did was I modified the heck out of one. I made one of those
Rounded it
legs
off.
really short and then smooth the other one. And so what you can do is you take the short leg and put it inside, and you can get around corners. Slick,
Well, that's
slick,
pretty-
like in the V of a boot top. It works quite
pretty
well.
clever there, Greg.
Yeah. Well, you make tools out of tools till they work for you sometimes.
Yeah, that's another thing a lot of leather crafters have to come to grips with over time is they buy a tool from a factory and it just doesn't do everything exactly like they want it to do. But in reality, if you want stuff to do exactly what you want it to do, you got to alter it a little bit.
That's right.
Or at least there's a good possibility that you will.
So we can get off the table a little bit and get that fold out of our way. too.
Yeah.
I don't know if the cameras can see.
Perfect.
Everybody tense up a little bit. I know I
And
did.
snake is,
Well,
it's got a lot of texture there on the surface.
that's also, that's a skill. I mean, it just is a skill.
I feel like maybe. So the width on this binding, if you guys are looking to cut your own, what are we at, like an inch? Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah, so it's about an inch wide is how wide the binding is. Which gives you plenty of room to pull on it. You're not just dealing with a little tiny hair amount that's going to pull and break off. Like, you want to give yourself something to grip onto as you're trying to pull around.
You'd rather have that binding wider than narrower.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. And if I have to throw away most of it to get my job done, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I think this is going to look pretty good.
I do too, even with the dark thread.
Even with the dark thread, it wasn't a bad job.
I was a little worried about that at first.
Well, I was too, but I figured what could go wrong. Might as well just get in there and see what will happen. I like the idea of this, of your lives, because it shows that anything can happen, And so
Sure. Well, and it does, believe me.
Sure.
Yeah, Kevin got a poopy piece of leather last month for our trading card video, and he was super soured through the whole hour and a half about that poopy piece of leather that was all smushy and it wouldn't do what he wanted it to do. And
It just gave me a great opportunity to display some of the sarcasm that I have such a hard time developing.
You're the king.
But we do have a lot of fun with those.
Look at
There
that.
it is.
Nice tool, folks.
Yeah.
So, you would finish cleaning up the cement, but no, not a bad look.
No.
No, that is nice looking, actually.
God. All right. Look at that.
I even put the snake on right? So, so it, it's smooth going down. Lucked out.
You can pet it and not go against the
of
grain.
course. I think we did good.
I think you did good. That's just very, very nice.
What would you sell that wallet for?
Me?
Anybody? No, not you. You're super cheap.
Yeah, I am too cheap. But if you're in a place that sold, nice quality leather goods, that would be expensive.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you can do, you can figure your costs on it. I was telling Liz earlier that at home, I got pretty well figured out. I can build a bifold in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I got, I think $20 in the plain
$20
bifold.
in your interior and
Whatever that is, and then whatever your shop rate is. I mean, they're really not that expensive.
No.
You can get more than that actually. So
Yeah.
they're pretty good money makers, I think.
Especially
that
when you're
wallet,
using the
depending
exotics.
on where you're at, would go from anywhere from $75 to $300. That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, very nice.
Alrighty. Well, I think we've taken up about 2 hours of everybody's day.
2 hours? Is that a record?
Close. No.
Oh,
What-
He
okay.
has that one
Yeah.
in the bag.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 hours. I think we were trying to finish a bag, and we just kept going. It was going to get done one way or another.
It was good though. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy with how everything came out. Kevin will get that laced up, and we'll post that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
Make Rusty do it.
No,
No, that's a bad idea.
it's not a happening deal.
yeah. So if anybody wants to check out Greg's stuff, go to Orion Calf on Instagram. And I know you've got some of your boots up there that you've made, and some people.
Yeah,
have,
there's some stuff on there. There's another spot if you just want to look at a few pictures of mine. I got one that's called Maple Pegs on IG.
maple pegs.
Maple Pegs.
Maple pegs.
Because that's the kind you put in the boots. Maple Pegs.
Well, there you go.
But it doesn't have a lot of stuff on there, but
He makes really cool shoes, and maybe not as much as you used to. That's okay. Alrighty, well, guys, we will see you next week. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and thank you so much for joining us today.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all.
To watch something fun. Wink, wink. Not joking. Go to Twitch.
We're gonna set up now.
We're gonna
We'll
set
set
up.
up and they'll see it.
Okay.